Here, that's Grandpa Frazee and Grandma Frazee there in the morning. Looks to be about 6:15. Uh, that's me with my new 1965 Chevette. That's probably when I was about 21 years old there, taking it to farm there in LaPorte, Indiana. Uh, who else but my two oldest sisters? What a cute picture. That's my mother, Ruth, on the left there, and the only grandfather that I ever knew there, John Collar, and the dogs there at the farm. That's me off to work to McGill's one morning. My car in the background, and that's my sister Judy's Volkswagen there that she had. I guess that was my new car when I just had gotten it there in '65. Just a scenic picture there in LaPorte County in the fall of the year. Oh, my mother and a couple of her dogs there with the morning glories. That's in the summertime there in the backyard. My dad in the dead of winter. About 3-4 inches of snow on the ground. This was probably about 1966. He'd be about 56 years old there. Probably in the area the same year. Marietta lounging and Carol there with my dad. And it's Todd in the background getting into Dad's tools there, right underneath the old willow tree. There they all are again. Look at these faces here. That's Todd with the football. Right next to him, Jimmy Pritz, sitting on the lounge chair is Tim and the beaver right there. Marietta and Carol, and that's Diane on Marietta's lap there. Another picture about the same thing again. Look at that guy. What a picture. My sister Judy and Dad, and one of the dogs there in the summertime. It's taken in the front yard there at the farm. My mother in the wintertime. Looks like she just got some flowers she's showing off there. Taking in the backyard there, that's my mother, Grandma Ruth, and Diane when she was a baby there. That's me when I was probably around 20 or 21 with my lover doll. Wasn't she cute? I never was too awake right in the morning. That was at the kitchen at the farm. Grandma Ruth again. My dad with one of his gardens. He always had a big garden every year. He put out, looks like he's got some sweet corn he's hoeing there. My dad right next to the granary before it fell down. Always had a slew of cats. There's the old Roosevelt toilet there on the right, that little building right next to the cornfield. And that was the tool shed right behind there, and there's a sign right above the door that says Laporte. I put that on there when I was a little kid. Ooh, one of the big snowstorms on the Joliet Road. That's my mother and Jimmy. The snow looks like it's about 5 foot high in the banks there. Okay, well this is Aunt Evie on the left-hand side there, and her daughter-in-law. And this was the old aunt that we used to go down to see in Oakland, Illinois. I'd always see her on her last birthday, and of course she outlasted all of them. That's Carol with her 2 boys there, and that was before Diane was born. Looks like she's about ready. There's a picture of us at the farm. That's me in the middle there, and Jude on the right with one of the cats. One of my alert mornings with my father there, 10 after 6, getting ready to hit it. I guess Dad was about 53 or 4 there. I guess I was fixing Jude's car here. The old 56 Chevy that used to belong to my grandmother looked like it had just seen its day all jacked up there. And that was my Chevette. Ma in her tulip garden in front of the house. My first business sign I put up at the farm. We had just gotten home from Alice Chalmers. At that time I was working in the office at Alice Chalmers, and Dad was working on a punch press, and I just got my real estate license, and I just put up a new sign there at the farm. I don't suppose anybody went by to see it, but I had it put up anyway. Dad made it for me. I made the sign and he made the wooden part. 21 years old there. That's Uncle Folt there, fixing Jude's Volkswagen. I don't know what Dad's got in the bucket. There's Dad washing his windows in the spring. Uncle Folt and Jude when they were courting. Let's be in my first office there at the farm. Always looking for a deal. My sister Jude in her Volkswagen off to work. There's the whole gang. Well, you can just about figure how old everybody is there and figure out what their ages were. Pretty young there. This is in Marietta's first house. That's everybody. Carol's first house when it was under construction there on 100 North. Her and her dad right there in on the basement doorway. It's Father again with his cats. Jude and Folt courting again. That's Diane there she's holding. It's the beauty queen again relaxing in the parlor there at the farm. A lot of courting pictures here. That's Uncle Fert's Pontiac there behind him. It's Jude waking up in the morning, ready to roll. 7 o'clock. I guess this is Mom and Dad getting ready for somebody's wedding there. Boy, didn't we have the cats. That's my mother's mother sitting there at the picnic table and her sister Grace. It's a cute picture. Well, little doll. Diane again. One of the big snows. This is a real typical picture of my grandmother, Sebert we all called her. She'd come out to the farm and stay for a week, and my mother would give her things to patch up and give her some things to cut the patches out of, and she'd fix everything. Just sewed constantly. Jude with one of her several bouquets of roses when she was being courted. This was one of my mother's favorite places. Her and Carol would take a ride, and they took a ride. They took her to this place. Actually, there was a guy that lived in this house, and he had a pile of beer cans in the back. He loved to drink beer, and he actually lived in this place. My dad there, and my grandmother Sebert. Looks like he just got off work from Alice Chalmers. Just cut the Christmas tree down. Oh, these are race pictures. I think this was about the 1966 Indianapolis 500 race when they went one year. They were just all in the infield there. Packing up or just arriving. Oh, and this is what they looked like afterwards. They were just going through finding all the good stuff. Somebody taking a nap on their car. There's my mother clear back in the back by the van. Taking a little rest up. Well, this was my Aunt Evie's place in Oakland, Illinois. This is the one where we went to her birthday every year, her last birthday. And all the relatives would come from miles and miles away to come to the birthday party, and we'd set it up in the park, and everybody would come, and they'd play their guitars and sing. Everybody would bring a covered dish, and it was about 200 miles for us. It was down south of central Illinois, and we'd go there every year on her birthday. There's another picture of the house from the back. That's my grandmother Ethel there, and Grandpa John, and my mother and dad, and that's Aunt Evie right there on the right hand side. Me, my dad's mother, and her sister and husband. And Mom and Dad. Another shot in the back. Boy, look at the old cars. It's my Grandpa John next to an old oil pole, I guess that is. There it is, the old oil pole that they used to make in LaPorte, Indiana, Rumley oil pole. One of the first tractors in the world. My father, after he got his real estate license. Todd and Tim there. Jimmy Pritz and Johnny. Oh, this is when Tim was having all his operations on his legs and he was in a wheelchair. And I guess it was his birthday or Todd's birthday, and they had a birthday there over at the farm where Carol used to live. Jimmy Pritz. It's my grandmother, Carol on the left, Jimmy Pritz, and John Collar, smoking a cigarette. Well, that's a cute one of them too. Couldn't have been more than 2 and 3 there or so. There's the whole gang there at the farm. It's Jimmy and my mother on their birthdays. Jimmy's birthday is the same day as her birthday. My grandmother Ethel Cower, my dad's mother, and Tim. Now this is Carol right before she had Diane with Aunt Gusty. This was my great aunt. My great aunt Gusty. She lived right on Kiefer Road all by herself. This was before I-94 went through, and she used to live there and cooked on an old wood-burning stove. She was always full of soot. I don't think the chimney worked real well, and it would back up in the house. The smoke would a little bit. And she had a flowing well there, and I remember going to the toilet there at her house, and the toilet flushed constantly. The water just ran through the toilet all the time. There's her house there in the background. She's standing there with Tim, and that's my mother on the left. Aunt Gusty, what a doll. I remember going over for her birthday, and you'd have to kind of dust the coal soot off of the table to have some ice cream and cake with her. There she is again. One of the visits, my mother used to make sure she always went and visited with her. There she is at her place again. You can see her barns were a little old. That's my grandmother, my mother's mother there. This was a Christmas at Carol and Colonel's place on the farm there. Right on the road behind where Uncle Fulton and Aunt Judy live now. All the boys there. Somebody's wedding here. Another picture of the wedding. Dad and I getting ready for the wedding. It's my grandmother. This was down in Indiana at the Covered Bridge Festival. Okay, that's my mother and Diane. They're at the farm. Cute picture. Okay, this is my grandmother there sitting down with the white corsage, and Aunt Lena, that's her other sister. And then that's Wilmer's two girls in the back there, Patty and Sonia. That's Aunt Dina on the right, Aunt Grace on the left, and Uncle Bill there in the middle. It's my cousin Irving and his wife. That's Brian sitting next to Irv's wife there on the left. Well, this must be all of Jude's wedding. Some more of the wedding. Just getting home from work. Some more of Jude's roses. Mom and Dad at the farm. Notice the picture there hanging on the wall at the farm. Some more at the festival. A lot of pumpkins. My first piece of real estate I sold.